I went for a run, and sure enough, after a kilometer, I'm in a lot of pain. I can't like bend down; it really hurts. And before I knew it, I went from being terrified of my body. I kept thinking if I use my knees, if I run, I'll just bring that knee replacement time further ahead in my life. One day, I just decided I'm gonna run every day in April. I was on some dating apps, and I randomly got this date, and I was super excited. Like, but I haven't done my run. Uh, so I went on the date, and I live pretty far from the city, so I got home at 12:40, and then I got out the door. I got home, got changed, got out at 12:50, did my run till like after 1 a.m. and then I went to bed. Really gaining an appreciation for something that I didn't really appreciate before, which was being able to see the value of doing small things over a long period of time. A dude who couldn't run 800 meters without feeling pain in my knees to having run 3 marathons in the space of a month. You gotta say life-changing again, because holy shit, it was an insane feeling.
All right, welcome back to the Midweek Motivation Podcast, a show where I interview interesting and inspiring guests from all walks of life, including athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, and people with big dreams who go out to change the world. This is episode 4, and man, I am so excited for this episode. Topics we're going to cover today include leadership, discipline, rehab, university life, and mindfulness. My guest today, I have known for 7 years. He is my co-founder of the UTS Bouldering Society, which that was a big part of my life, and I'm so excited to share this story. During this time, he also served as president during 2023, where he led the team to reach over 500 members in the club's second year, doubling the previous year. His immense passion for life has led him to achieve some incredible experiences in his own personal life, including canyoning, hiking Mount Fuji, climbing, and now exploring his running journey. He has also just finished, literally this week, his Bachelor of Engineering with honors and Bachelor of Science. He's my best friend from Oz, Toby Haslinger. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Kev, thank you so much for having me. I don't know, my head has grown from that lovely intro, but yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here. You've interviewed some really cool people on this podcast so far, and I'm so stoked to be a part of it. So thanks for having me.
Not a problem. The honor is all mine. Um, Bro, like, how does it finish uni after all this time? You've had such a long journey with
Yeah.
a bachelor. Yeah,
Yeah,
tell us
no,
more.
look, it was insane. You know what? I think I built it up a lot more. I think it felt like it was going to be huge in the sort of 2 weeks leading up to it, because it finally felt real. It felt like, oh my God, the end is here. I can see it on the calendar when I open my phone up. But then when it actually happened, it was quite anticlimactic. I was just grinding away. My thesis was due on the 11th, and that was the really big submission. And I was just grinding away at it all down the 11th, and then I just kind of I was getting into my head about it. I was going through, all of the mental hoops we jumped through on the last when we're cramming an assignment on the last day. Not to say I was cramming this one. It's just that there was a lot more stuff that I really wanted to include, and I only had the day. And I thought, well, I'm not going to have any more time after this, so I might as well just put 110 in right now. And I just kind of got into the zone after a while, and then before I knew it, it was done. And then I submitted it, and I was like, what? It's done. I was really kind of. I've only really noticed it now. So this is what, 4 days later. And I guess that where I notice it is that I'll be, doing something completely normal. Like today, I was just out seeing some family, and I panicked for a second. I'm like, oh, I can't be out here. I need to be at home doing my thesis. And then I remembered I didn't have to do it. And so I think it's just that sort of silent burden that you have on your shoulders of, should I really be doing this when I need to be working on my submissions, or is this really the right way to be using my time? I'm kind of free of that now, so it feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you started at the same time as me, 2018,
I did.
through
Yeah.
this degree, and now we're 2024. Like, tell us like why this journey like went up and down through this time. Like, obviously, I know you a lot personally. And like a typical bachelor, like for your degree, what was probably 4 years,
5
5 years,
years.
maybe
Yeah.
5 years. Okay, and turned to 7. A lot of people, I guess, sort of freak out when that journey extends for a long period of time, or
Mm.
they're afraid to take some time off.
Mm.
Tell us more about how, like, when you started, why you chose that degree, and then where it is now.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and it's something that I really love talking about, because honestly, it's something that I still sort of question to this day, the decisions that I made through my degree. But I am kind of happy to say to preface with the fact that I regret nothing, and there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of discomfort in the decisions I made throughout the course. So the reason I chose it was because I guess at school I was sort of more my strengths sort of more lied in academics, like the standard way that we learn at school, the way that is sort of imposed on us, and we don't really think about it too much, or at least I didn't. I just sort of went through the motions. I was good at it, so I thought, like this is definitely something I would want to do more of. Do I know exactly what I would want to do? No, but I know I enjoy and have a bit of an affinity towards these subjects being sort of maths, science, that kind of thing. So I'll just pick that, and I couldn't choose between engineering or science, so I thought let's just do both. The ATAR requirement was pretty achievable, so I just kind of applied for it, and I actually originally went for a science degree, and then after I kind of thought about it, I then went for the double and got into it luckily. So that's why I chose it. But then I guess about half a year in, I kind of had this conflict, this sort of like I'd woken up a little bit. I'd sort of stepped back and sort of seen the process for what it was, and I thought, okay, hang on. I started school when I was 5. I went through school 5 days a week. Till for the next 13 years, to get from kindergarten to year 12, and now I'm going straight from year 12 back into the same thing. Like, it definitely feels different. There's a lot more freedom. You're doing it of your own volition, so it's your own money. For those who don't know, in Australia, when you go to uni, you can actually you have to pay for it, but you can have the government pay for some of it, and you can actually defer paying most of it off until you earn a certain amount of money. So it is coming out of your own pocket. So there's a bit more independence in it. But I just kind of felt like I was following a path that was prescribed to me from a young age, whether that's conscious or subconscious. I think it's just when you do well at school, people tell you to go to uni. And I was like, hell yeah, I enjoy doing this stuff. But then I sort of just woke up and thought, there's actually a million different ways to do this. Why do I have to do it this way? And I think uh, in a bit of I wanted to test myself. I wanted to defy that notion, and really just try something different, because I felt very unsure about the degree at around that first year point. And everyone says, first year sucks because you do basic subjects that everybody does. And, you're still getting used to it. You're getting used to the assignments, you're getting used to how everything works, but it felt a little deeper for me. So I decided to take a year off. And that was a really hard decision, because by that point I built up a really nice group of friends, Cameron being one of those people. We all went on the same science camp in the first year, and we were all pretty close. And I was already struggling to see everybody because the workload was just a lot more than I'd expected. And I wanted to do well. I was still going into it with the sort of school student mindset of get really good grades. But I didn't really know why. That's the thing. I didn't really step back and really ask myself what my motivation was and why I was doing what I was doing, because it's around that time when you start working and you're studying, and you realize that time is as much a resource as money. But you can always make money, but you can't make time. So that's a really big thing. So anyway, taking the year off was a big challenge, because I was going to fall behind in comparison to my friends. Which was just, from an ego point of view, like I don't want to, I'm going to get stuck with a bunch of people I don't know. All of the people that I do know are going to be in different classes. They're going to graduate before me. There was a bit of insecurity around that, because I really kind of envied the security that people felt in that path, and it was a security that I lacked, and that sometimes I wanted, but other times I was happy that I didn't have it. So I took the year off. I didn't really want to. I just wanted to work. I just wanted to sort of experience what life would be outside the degree, so that hopefully by the end of the year, I would have the clarity to make a really informed decision on whether I wanted to continue or drop out. And I made sure to consider all those possibilities equally, so that meant that when it came to the end of the year and I made a choice, I was fully committing to that choice. I wasn't going to half-ass it. I wasn't going to arm and R and take another year off. I was really committing to getting it done, because I did, as much as I was happy to sort of play around and explore, I also did want to just get the thing done if I was committing to that. So I took the year off. I worked part-time at IKEA and retail and a bunch of other departments, and worked for a good chunk of it more than full-time hours, just worked lots of shifts, really experienced what that was like. And yeah, I came to the end of it realizing that it would be worth finishing, and it's stuff that I am really interested in, but then I also realized that just because I enjoy it, it doesn't mean it has to be easy. It can still be really hard. So then I decided to come back. For the next sort of few years, it was on and off between full-time and part-time study. So I'm not going to say I half-assed it, but I definitely reevaluated my priorities and realized that for a 5-year course, like 5 years of my life, I'm not going to just grind it out like I did with school. I was going to make sure I came out of this degree with more life experience than just 5 years of university. I wanted to have done other things, worked, had relationships, gone places, done cool things. And that's ultimately what led me here. So I did some semesters full time, some part time, and the way that all accumulated was a 5-year degree turning into 7. But I wouldn't have changed it for anything. Even though now I still feel some, sometimes the thoughts would be like, oh, what if you just finished earlier? Where would you be now? And yeah, I'm really grateful for the choices I made because it meant that the choices that I made about staying or leaving, anything like that, was had a really solid foundation to them, so I could kind of tackle them with confidence as opposed to insecurity and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And like what you said about ego is everything. Like for me,
Mm,
I'd sort of similar experience where I did my first year, I did Bachelor of Forensic Science, and which is so strange compared to where I am now.
mm.
Did 1 year of that and then realized like actually, whoa, I did a whole semester break, went back for the second year and then dropped out, I think second weekend, and then organic chemistry lecture, which
That
is
is fair enough. That would cause people who loved forensics to drop out, I reckon.
yeah, yeah. And like I think I just realized then and there like this wasn't for me. So I left and I still wanted to do like university because I loved the life of it, and I just knew that was gonna be my path for at least the time being anyway. And I didn't really think about ego so much about, oh, I'm going to be left behind the next year. But so many people do that and they end up just going to this full degree. And sometimes it's more than just a bachelor. They go on to do postgrad and then whatever next, and then realize they actually don't like what they're doing. And that's completely fine. But I guess if you don't realize that early on, you just spend all this time, all this money that you're going to be paying.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can't get your time back. And it's a shame. So I think recognizing it early on and, as much as you can is going to be really crucial for how you set up for the next few years of your life and
Mm.
ultimately like where the path that you go down.
Could I just add
Um,
one more thing as well? Sorry.
yeah, of course.
I was just going to say, you said something there that really resonated with me and reminded me of when I was, you said that, I actually don't remember what it was, sorry, but what it reminded me of was that the other thing that was really good about that year for me was that I think I might have said it before, but I acknowledge the fact that there would be times, like if I commit to finishing the degree, there will be 100 times, 100 more times where I say to myself, this is too hard, I don't want to do it. I'd rather be doing other things, a million other like, because it's hard work, and your 5 years is such a long time. I just, for me, maybe some people, some people are like this, but my priorities are just fluctuating around because I still don't know what I want, because I want to experience more things. So that was a really big thing, was acknowledging the fact that I am committing to finishing this degree despite all of those doubts or concerns, like despite those times where you got 5 assignments due and you're like, I just want to drop out, I want to do this. You're like, no, you're committed to doing it from that day. So it doesn't matter if you barely pass, it doesn't matter if you get it in late, but you're going to finish it. So yeah, that's a lot of discipline that I learned from you as well, Cam. You're one of the most disciplined people I know.
Well, I feel like I'm not being as much disciplined lately, but thank you.
That's okay.
How have you changed as a person over these last 7 years? Obviously, you starting degree, you're
Mm,
fresh out of school, but
mm,
now you've had so much experience since then. We haven't even touched through your time with the club yet, but um,
yeah.
like you've had part-time jobs and then full-time jobs, relationships. You've had all these different life experiences. How have you changed during this time?
Yeah, far out. That's a big question. I mean, I think I'm a completely different person to when I started uni. Um, when I started uni, I was very much a school student. Because when you start uni, it's just like school. I mean, there's some differences, but you rock up to a classroom full of a new class of people. It's like at school at a new year, you don't know who's going to be in your classes, and you don't know where you're going to sit. You don't know what friends you're going to have that year. So it was kind of like that. I rocked up to my first lecture and I didn't know anybody, and didn't know who I was going to sit next to, and I didn't know who was going to be in my prac groups, and so it was very much like school. And I think the first experience that really snapped me out of that was science camp, which was just which sounds really nerdy, but it actually was just really fun. We just bunch of first year science students just went out to a campground, and we just did a bunch of fun activities and got to know each other. And that was I was like, oh, these guys are just. I think the thing that clicked for me was that I went to a school where, I was in the same cohort of people from kindergarten to year 12. So everybody knew who I was and I knew who everyone was. And so I guess when you're around people for so long, you're kind of solidified into this image of what other people see you. And when I went to uni, nobody knew who I was, so I could be anyone. And it was really funny because I was kind of the nerd at school, and then someone on science camp, I talked to them later when we got back, and they were like, and I had a really good conversation with them, just a nice chill conversation. And they said, "Oh, this is a really nice chat. Honestly, I thought you were just a dumb jock." And I was like, that blew my mind because I thought I'm the furthest person from that. I'm like the nerd. So that kind of made me realize that I can just be whoever I want to be. Uh, and I can just do that. So that was one way I changed. I think I gained a lot of like autonomy in myself as what I could be. I felt a lot more free. But it also just the other big thing that university changed for me was that all of the motivation, all of the drive, all of the time management, it comes from you. I mean, the subject coordinators are different for every subject, and you might be doing 3, 4, or 5 in a semester. So you're essentially working to 4 people's timelines. You have to work your schedule around them, and that's really hard. And because there's no one but yourself to drive you, you really have to choose to make that effort. And that's what kind of I think that's a good thing, because then you really get to question, why am I doing this? Why am I trying so hard? Why does it matter to me even? Or some really big questions. And then there are also a lot of big relationships, friendships, and romantic that just I think you see a different side of yourself when you're in a relationship, like that being a close friendship or a romantic relationship. And it's scary sometimes to see parts of yourself that you might not know were there, or that only come out in those situations. And there's definitely, I think if anything, it just showed me how much more there is to learn. And the scary thing about learning in relationships is that it happens the best, it happens the quickest, and it's the most effective when you're actually in one. And that can be really scary because you kind of bring when you come into something new, you're bringing yourself. You have to kind of put it all on the line. You have to be vulnerable, and if you're not, you just kind of stagnate, and you don't learn anything. And yeah, it's like uni taught me that you learn the most from the really hard times. But after a while, you kind of see where those hard times are, and you can sometimes you might be really exhausted, and you can kind of dart around them. But I think one thing that changed about me was that I became someone who avoided tough situations into someone who faced them eventually. Like there were,
Mm.
sometimes things are hard, and you might not have the strength to do it straight away. But I'd like to think that I always did what I thought was right. Eventually, I was always honest with myself about that kind of stuff, and was ready to have some pretty scary, hard conversations. But yeah, no, it just really showed me how much there is to learn. So another way uni changed me is it really kind of caused me to question like who I am and what I care about, what's important to me, what are my values, and how do I kind of present myself through how do I live through those values. And that was really good because there were just so many challenging situations that kind of they might be things that you haven't experienced before, uh like moral dilemmas or something, where all you really have to go off is those beliefs. So putting them to the test can be really scary but fun. So I'd say that's another way that I've changed. But uni also just made me a lot more confident as well, which was good. Because I think coming out of school in a certain, you just kind of a little, I don't know, I wasn't like a popular kid at school, so I was pretty, reserved and stuff. But I think I really found myself after school and was able to be more confident and just generally quite happy. So that was good.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, also during your time, this was 2021, this point,
Mm.
I came to you and we're at a friend's party. And I was like, do you want to start a bouldering club at
Yeah.
university?
Yeah, I
It was a bit of
remember it
a
well.
probably a shock at that point in time. But
Yeah.
why I decided to do that and ask you because I thought it'd be really cool to be like on an executive board for one of the clubs, and like work my way up. And I thought doing president would be pretty cool, but
Mm.
and I was didn't really know what club that I really wanted to do it with. Nothing clicked. I mean, I thought about the Barbell Society, but then that club was more focused on powerlifting, and I was only getting to the space of weightlifting at that point. But I was like, it'd be really cool to start your own club, and I saw that you can do it on the website. But I was like, starting things is like sometimes I'm good at it, but having like a name or a specific thing is really hard. I'm just good at big picture. And then, one moment is in the car and I was driving along and I'd be like, I don't even notice there was a bouldering club at university. So as soon as I got home out of the car, checking it, there's no club. I mean, I enjoyed bouldering, but I'm terrible at it. I'm like, I feel like I could do it though, but I needed someone who's actually good at it. And first person I thought of was you. And then so I couldn't wait to tell you or ask you, like, would you be interested in starting a club together?
Yeah.
What was your initial reaction to that? And like, why did you decide to say yes?
Yeah, I remember that day very well. The minute you said at a party, it like immediately just came into my mind like it was yesterday. Yeah, what did I think? I mean, I was very surprised because it was a birthday party and and it was a pretty small party as well. And then you're like, you kind of you didn't even really pull me aside. You're like, okay, so I don't remember your exact words, but you're like, you just said, yeah, you want to start a bouldering club, and I just thought that was mental. I was like, I remember going to science camp where we were the members, and then there were execs, and they were only a few years older than us, but they just seemed uh they just had this kind of seniority about them. And I was like, wow, me? What? Uh and then making a club, I just never even thought of it because I wasn't super involved in uni societies or anything too much up until that point. And at first I was like, I was kind of overwhelmed because I don't know if I could do that. And then I came home and I spoke with some people about it, and I was like, this happened, and man, like it's just crazy. And then the more I kind of talked about it, the more excited I got. I was definitely afraid. I was really like, oh my gosh, like could I commit time to this? Like this is huge. And then eventually I was just like, well, I can't swear, can I?
Okay.
I was like, fuck it. This sounds like a cool opportunity. And I could see how excited you were about it. I was like, this could be sick. This could be really cool. We could make something really awesome here. I think it was also just a bit of imposter syndrome as well. I was like, I can't make a bouldering club. Like
Hmm.
I'm just a dude. But yeah, and then I think I just thought about it. I was like, well, why can't I make a bouldering club? Like, why can't we do this? And then that's when I decided to come straight away and be like, nah, let's do it. Let's give it a crack. Worst case, it falls apart, but like, who cares? It's fun to give it a crack. So yeah.
Exactly. Actually, the imposter syndrome is something interesting that you brought up because that was something I experienced for a while, and I eventually like got over it, realizing like how good we were like at running the club and everything. But
Mm,
like I said, I had didn't really have much experience with bouldering at all. And
yeah.
like I felt like, why is it up to me to run it? So I think as a result, I had to find someone or find a team who are actually really good at it. And that's why
Yeah.
I had like I needed you to be part of the club for it. Um and but I think that holds a lot of people back in a way.
Yeah,
And
for
of
sure.
course you need to have some sort of expertise in whatever you decide to do, but doesn't mean that should hold you back. Uh,
Mm,
as a result, I sourced I sourced people who actually knew what they were doing, how they can actually literally turn the club into something better. I
mhm.
was just having the plan to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting, um, like insight that you brought up. But we had a lot of challenges starting the club during like
Mm,
those 6 months leading up to it. We had people telling us yes, some people telling us no.
mhm.
um, and I think that also that can hold a lot of people back as well. I would like to hear sort of your side on setting up that club. Do you think are some of the conversations? Do you think it was actually, something that we can pull off? Were you like
Mm,
doubting yourself?
mm.
Yeah, anything that comes to mind there.
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind, and really the really main thing that comes to mind, is when we had a conversation and we were talking about, because when when we decided we were going to start this, we had a conversation about, well, okay, we've established we want to start a bouldering society, but what are we actually going to do? Like, what are our events going to be? Because the clubs at I don't know about other unis, but the clubs at UTS, very huge range of structures. Like some clubs have events all the time. Some clubs barely have any events. Some have none. Some do all of their stuff online, or they do all their stuff informally. So there was so many. The box was, you couldn't see the edges. It was massive. There were so many things that we could do, and at least for me, that made it quite overwhelming. But I think it's like what people tell you when you get an assignment, the first thing you should do is read it and write down as much as you can. Try and understand the problem as best that you can, to kind of create your box, and then decide whether you want to stay in it or go outside. So we had a phone conversation about that. And through that phone conversation, I don't quite remember where in the process it was, but it was very early on. It was before we became affiliated, and we created the original kind of template for the casual climb events, which is the staple of the club even to this day, is the casual climbs, the CCs. So we were on a phone call and we were just sort of theory crafting about how we knew we wanted to create a community of people at UTS that could bond through climbing, but it was like, how are we going to do that? And I think once we came up with the casual climb template, I don't even know if we named it then, but when we came up with that, that really put things into perspective for me, and I was like, holy shit, we can do this. Like, this is possible. Like, this is awesome. This is epic. People would love to go to these events,
Mm.
and they would be really fun to run. So yeah, that was, I don't remember what your question was, but I think that's what came to mind.
Yeah, and like there was a lot of excitement leading up to it, but we had a lot of waiting as well because it was other stakeholders that were going to be part of this, or we had to get approved and everything like that. And we had a couple conversations with different people, and we were worried like, oh, is this actually going to pull through? Can we do it? In the end, we kind of just listened to the no side. Sorry, we didn't listen to all the no side of it, and we're like you said, fuck it, we're just gonna just do
Yeah,
it ourselves. And
yeah,
we brought in two of our mates to join in, and we got affiliated, which was like awesome. So we were
huge.
starting 2022, and yeah, team of four, and we're like our first O day that we had. Didn't really know what to expect, and then we had lots of signups on that day. I think like
Yeah.
70. I don't know. I can't remember the numbers, but
It was insane. It was almost 100, and we were expecting like 10 people. Because to paint a
yeah.
picture, right, at O Day, everyone has stands set up, and they're all decorated with, all the clubs, the execs are at the stand, and they've got cool, interactive things, and they're all wearing their shirts, that they're all matching, and they've got a backboard full of photos of events and stuff. We hadn't had an event. We didn't even have shirts. Like, we just rocked up in our regular clothes with no photos, but we had a little pinch block challenge. A pinch block is just a block of wood that you can pinch, and we attach some weight to it. And the treasurer and I drew up a little sign that just said "pinch to win" in highlighter, and people just loved it. People swarmed it, and we got so many signups, and it was just, like you said, beyond our expectations, 100%.
I love that so much. It's just a really good example of pure innovation and creativity there. Like we had nothing. We didn't have a single cent to our club, and
Yeah.
yet we managed to pull something that off that attracted so many people.
Yeah.
We didn't have a social media manager. It was just like us two, the treasurer Jared, and then Genzi. He was like kind of like our
Mm.
social media manager, but didn't
Yeah.
have any experience. He just wanted to help out, which is awesome. And then
Yeah.
we very quickly grew from our numbers of O Day and our first couple climbs. We realized like, oh my God, there's so many people. We need to bring someone else who actually has experience in social media so we
Yeah.
can communicate all our events and everything. That's why we brought Mika along. So it was a team of five. And then later along, we obviously saw more success throughout the year. We needed more people. So we brought on three more people by the end of that first year. So it was a team of eight of us. And that was insane. What was and like, we had 250 people almost just about after the
Mm.
end of that first year, which is mind blowing for, I think, a first year as a club. What were your expectations leading up into this first year of the club? And like, I'm sure your mind was blown too from that point.
100%. I think my my expectation, well, before O Day, my expectation was we're not going to get affiliated in time and we're not going to be able to take signups. This is going to be a disaster. And then we got affiliated and it was like, oh, okay, we can do this. I think I was expecting some interest and but I mean I was not expecting to just be swarmed. We planned a welcome night, pretty common for clubs to have a welcome night after or close to O Day to kind of get all of the new members to mingle with the old members and meet the execs. We didn't have any old members. So the welcome night, which we actually
That's so
had,
true.
it was so close to O Day. Was it not on the same day? Or I don't remember.
Oh,
It was either the
yeah, I
same day
can't
or it was like a day
the
after.
next night. Yeah.
And I think that really worked to our advantage because it kept the buzz alive. We didn't have a social media. We didn't have anything. So to see, we ended up having some ridiculous number of people come, like 30 or 40 people, which was huge considering we started off that week with
I think it
zero
was 90.
members. 90, yeah. So
Yeah.
almost 100 people when we had zero members at the start of that week. Like it's just wouldn't, no way. Like I knew bouldering was popular, but I had no idea that some, like a bunch of sort of shy first years would be so keen to just get into it. And that made me really, really happy. And then moving to the end of the year, the sheer amount of events that we managed to hold and the amount of we I wouldn't say my mind was blown, but I think the thing that warmed my heart the most was that we completely succeeded in our goal. Like we had a bunch of members, but within that there was a core group of sort of 20 to 30 people that would come to the events regularly, and that was the start of that community that we wanted to build of UTS students who could be mates, but they were drawn together and they had a common interest of climbing. So there was always something that they could fall back on, and there was always something that they would have. So that not so much blew my mind, but just made me so happy that we succeeded in that. But the other thing that blew my mind was that we were able to hold a ball at the end of the year. We were able to have a big party. Um, yeah, it was just the whole year was mind blowing. It was like
Mm,
every milestone was just so surprised that we got there. To be honest,
yeah.
yeah.
Actually, yeah, bit of fact check. I think you were right. It was more closer to your numbers. 90 was, I think, another welcome night that we had. Anyway, just so many
90
good
might have
numbers.
been semester two.
Yeah, it could have been.
Because semester two, oh yeah, that's the other thing. Because the club's day in semester two, which is like open day, O day, that was when all the exchange students, the people from Global Exchange came in. I don't remember if that was
Mm,
as big in our first year because it was just coming out of COVID. But yeah, actually forget that because I think that was for the next year. But anyway, we had an even bigger show up at the next welcome night, and it was hectic. Mine was constantly being blown.
yeah, we had pretty much a record each semester for
Yeah,
something in one way or
yeah,
another.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we had just good constant growth. But actually, growth is a good point that we should talk about next because so after the first year, I stepped down as president and but still remained in the club as treasurer. And then you decided to become president and then share that role with Jared as our vice president
Yeah.
for 2023. And I would love to know your experience as president. And did you feel when you decided to put your hand in, was it something that you were actually excited about, nervous about, or did you feel like you were kind of obliged to take that role?
Mm, that's a great question. It was a mix of all three of them. There was I felt I kind of saw it happening, and I was definitely nervous because for a couple of reasons. One, the degree was heating up, and I was thinking, am I going to have enough time and energy to give to this? As much as you did, because you set a huge precedent. You put so much into the club, and it was inspiring, but it was also kind of terrifying. So like I don't know if I can do that. Uh, Definitely felt an obligation as well because there was coming into the next year with the club being so successful. I think it's really important that whoever led the club had been there for the first year. I think that was crucial. And so I definitely did feel a bit of an obligation, but it wasn't an obligation from anybody else, from you or from any of the other execs. It was from within myself. I was like, I know I have to do this. And part of me is scared. Part of me doesn't want to do it. Part of me is like, I don't have enough time, all this yada, yada, yada. But it's like, I got to do it, and I'm gonna try my best to make the most of it. I'm gonna make sure the club continues to grow. Um, so that was kind of my emotions coming into it, I'd say.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah. Well, like I think we couldn't tell from first if what we did in our first year was just luck. Like we won an
Yeah,
award in our first year, and then we had
that's right.
people show up to our events and sign up. But from second year, we more than doubled our members, and
Mm.
that was, I think, proof to me that was like, okay, that's not luck. I mean, yeah, surely there's gonna be a little bit of that, but there was more than that, and both teams managed to work so well into that. And you had a team of 9 in the second year.
Yeah.
So tell us more about your your leadership experience there. What was it
Mhm.
like to run a team? And we should do it again if you had, let's say, all the time in the world. Would you like, or it could be in any position, maybe it's your own business. Do you think a leadership position is for you?
Great question. What was it like? Managing a team of 9 was pretty wild. I think that it revealed a lot about me, like who I am as a leader and who I am in a team, which I already kind of knew from uni and stuff. But I guess it's a tough environment because, and this kind of ties into doing it as a job, because I think it would be very different doing it as a job, because when you're a club exec, you don't get paid, you're a volunteer. So it's really important when you kind of lead is that you can't be pushy, or you can't like I really struggled to find the balance between being an assertive leader, but then also a friend and an empathetic individual who can appreciate that we're all uni students, we're all busy, and we're also not being paid to do this. So, some people are living out of home, they've got to work to pay, they've got to work to live, they've got to study, which takes up a lot of time, and then they've got to do this. So that was really hard. I think I was trying really hard to find that balance and try and be as empathetic as possible, but then also, be assertive when I needed to. And I think I lacked the ability to be assertive in certain situations. Um, and I think I also, when it came to situations where I knew that, certain people needed to be, stepping up and doing more stuff, or not doing what they were supposed to do, I would sometimes take the easy road and just sort of do it myself, because I felt like when I was stressed out, when you get really stressed, sometimes you go into this fight or flight type thing, like anxiety, and you just want to get out of that. And for me, the quickest way to get out of it was just do it myself, uh, which is not a great trait for a leader. I think you have to really understand. It showed me that you really need to understand your team and what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, and then learn how to comfortably delegate and accept the fact that, like, and I'm not saying this to say that the team were not good enough or below par or something, but when you're a perfectionist, sometimes you're just convinced that your way to do something is the best way. And so it can be very uncomfortable to let someone else do it. And I think that's something that I struggled with. And it's something I learned a lot about, is that sometimes you just have to kind of sit in the discomfort of that, and that your priority as a leader is to actually delegate and to manage rather than to do those tasks. So yeah, that was a crazy experience, and I really learned a lot about how I am as a leader and how I could improve. And to answer your question as to would I do it again, 100%, because the next big group environment I was in immediately after being president of Boulder Sock, I subconsciously and consciously put all those practices into play, all those learning experiences into play, and had a vastly different experience. While I wasn't officially the leader of this group, it was for a university project. um there it was the similar thing. It was like everybody was sort of in an even, we were all a flat team, but then there came a point where it was very apparent that someone needed to step up, and but then also, acknowledge the fact that we're just uni students and this isn't a job. So I feel like I was really able to apply the things I learned from Boulder Sock to that. And so I would 100% do it as a job. I would love to lead. There's still a lot of things I'd have to work on, but I would really want to do it again, in a work environment or otherwise.
Amazing. I think everyone should have some experience in leadership, and a uni project is a great example for that. You learn so much about yourself and your leadership style. Everyone's going to naturally gravitate towards something, and then they can realize if that was actually good or not. But then you have to accept feedback. Feedback is going to be really important. It's so important to be able to do that, because if you think that you're a great leader, but then your whole team is miserable, then
Yeah.
that doesn't really show you're a good leader, does it?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and when I was president, like I loved every minute of being part of the club, but something that happened towards the end, and I think because like I was diving into the club so much, because obviously it was our first year, we had to keep it alive.
Yeah.
Um, I wasn't prioritizing my studies so much, or I would kind of choose the club over everything, to work, training, and study. And then by the end of the first year, and you remember this, I at the club awards night, I was actually quite sick.
Yeah.
And that just came all of a sudden, and then that was really unfortunate. I missed out on actually having the award come over. And I think literally at this point, this is the first time I've ever experienced a true burnout. And that was something I didn't really want to admit, but I think that was my body just finally giving a sign like, you're done.
Yep. You
You
need to
gotta,
lie down and rest.
I wouldn't say, yeah, I would change anything about it, because we managed to do so many things, but I just didn't really give the enough balance that I needed for my body to rest and actually, recover. And um, yeah, and I think that's what happens when you're in university life, or you're putting in your passion into something so much that there is going to be imbalance. And yeah, unfortunately, that can happen. And like, we're all human. You also touched on being a perfectionist as well. That's, yeah, I think it's not something I experienced so much then, but definitely more so now as an experience. Um, and leadership, it's a really good actually question that you were sort of bringing up, that came to my mind, was that I kind of missed that. I really missed having a team. And even though my second year I was treasurer, I didn't have much of a leadership role. Like, it was being part of a team was really cool to me. I played a lot of team sports growing up. I was captain for 4 years of a basketball team, and so I've always had this team environment. I've been in uni projects, and now it's just kind of me. And now, I mean, I have a video editor editing this podcast, which is awesome. And then I have obviously my partner, but like, it's not the same team environment where I can be a part of it. I definitely miss that, and it's made me learn about that is kind of an area I think I want to be going into the future, into business. If I can manage a team and we can just do cool stuff, that's really cool to be a part of.
Mm.
But handing down the torch to the next
Yeah.
year's president,
Yep.
what was that like for you, passing down to a new president? But then also, more importantly, how does it feel now that you're stepping out of the club? Because now you've had 3 positions,
Mm.
but you're stepping out of the club entirely now.
Hmm.
What does it feel like?
Um, I after handing down president was a mix of emotions. I think towards the end of the year, as we came up towards AGM and we were electing a new council, a new exec team, there was a weird mix of emotions. There was sadness, there was like anxiety. I think like there were a lot of moments where I thought like I could have done a lot better as a president. And then so I felt a bit of, like not regret, but like guilt. I don't know. It was a weird time, but I was overall, like looking back on the club, seeing how much more growth we'd experienced and how the team worked, and it was really nice to see a fresh new team coming on. I was lucky enough to be a part of it again. I feel like yeah, it was so our initial social media person, Mika, was the president this year, and she was every year that she's been a part of the club, she has really just gone above and beyond. And so it was really nice. I was really glad to see the club fall into her hands, because I just thought that, she was like she just do a great job for that reason. She was always willing to kind of do a little bit more than she had to, and she just loved the club as well. So that made me very happy passing that on. I think I felt a little bit of relief as well. I was like, oh man, the big year, it's over. Because when you think about it, the club is really like a year-long project. And when you're at university, the longest project you do is sort of 6 to 10 weeks. A year-long project, that's big. And as president, you don't have a lot of tasks to do per se. You don't have like weekly things that you have to do other than maybe run a meeting. But what you do have to do, and this is really overwhelming, is you have to kind of step back and view the club from like an extra dimension. You have to look at it across the whole
Mm-hmm.
year. And that is a massive time scale to look at anything. Like I struggle to look at my own life for the next year. I'm like, well, I'm doing this and this and this, but something might change and something like I might do
Yeah.
this or that. So I think people really it's something that's hard to see until you're actually in the role. I think because I could tell, obviously, Cam, I could tell that for all you were doing, I could tell that it was a hard, like it was a hard job, it wasn't easy. Um, but yeah, again, to hone your appreciation for it when I was in it, looking across such a big club. Maybe it would be different if the club was smaller, but for such a big club over such a long period of time, it's pretty overwhelming. So yeah, it was definitely a mix of emotions, but overall uh I was happy. I was happy at where the club was going with the new team and Mika as president.
Mm, yeah. And then like letting go of the club entirely, finishing up now. I
Yeah.
mean, I know it's still the end of the year, but like
Yeah.
now that you have a new team that's coming in from next year, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. I
Letting
mean,
go.
yeah, it's a great question. There's also a bit of kind of uncertainty going into next year because the thing that we've sort of held through the years is that there's always been at least, two or three execs from the previous year carrying on to the next year. And I think that that's so important because as an exec, you are an archive of knowledge. Even if you didn't do that much, even if you were just, I don't know, uh, there's actually no small role in Boulder Sock team. Everyone does a lot. So there's no small role, but like
Yep.
you could be someone unrelated to leadership. Like you could be social media, which is a massive job, but you're not really leading the whole club. You, regardless, you still bring so much knowledge and experience into the next year. Makes you invaluable, or makes you extremely valuable to the team. So there's a little bit of nerves because most of the execs were graduated or graduating, myself included. So it looked like there was going to be a whole new team. And for the most part, it actually was. But the flip side to that was that while only one member from the 2024 execs will be continuing on, that would be Justin Monkey Boulders. If you want to follow him on Instagram, he will be president next year, which is amazing. But also the team is full of people from that community that I mentioned before, which has grown. So this year, again, there were some new faces that really showed up to a lot of events, really cemented themselves in the community, and then they put their hand up at the end to be execs, and that was just so it was heartwarming, it was relieving, it was great. So while we do have a very fresh team next year, the people we have someone who was an exec last year who was secretary being president, and we also have a team of people who are really driven and excited to contribute and have been a solid part of the community. So they kind of also bring that like archival value to the table as well, just not through an exec,
Mm,
through being part of the community.
yeah. Yeah. That was that I guess relief as well when I stepped down. So after 23, I was 23, I stepped down obviously because I did this whole move and finished my undergrad. Um, and like I could looking back now, like now I'm so proud of like where the club has gone, and it's just made me really happy of like how the club continues growing. Like now you're over 800 members, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, definitely one of the top clubs. And that was a vision that I had and didn't really form straight away. I always wanted to have this community for people who just like want to hang out and just go climb and just have fun. And then eventually it came to like, we can make this into one of the best clubs for someone on campus. If someone was coming to uni for the first time and they want the best experience of university life as possible, they go to Boulder Sock, and that's how they're going to get the best experience. And I think we definitely achieved that. Um, what was your favorite position though? So you started as secretary, then you went to
Yeah.
president, and then events manager. What was your favorite?
Yeah. It's really hard to say. Because there's not only the role that goes into it, there's also sort of what was going on with the club at that point in time. Um, I think I'm going to say secretary. And the reason why I say that is that the first year of Boulder Sock was and will forever be unforgettable for me. Like it was such a life-changing experience. Back to that imposter syndrome. Like we were just guys like Gen Z, being doing, marketing. He he really came into his own that year. And I don't know if he knew that he was capable of what he did in that first year. But I think like the amount of events that I organized and seeing my casual climb concept really come to life and be successful was made me feel great. It was great to see that you know, while not being president, I was still able to really contribute to the club coming out as a success and organizing events and so many firsts in that year as secretary for the in the club. There were so many firsts, like our first welcome nights. And because we had no events team, it was mainly me and sort of well, actually, everyone kind of did a bit of everything. But when it came to the casual climbs, that was mostly me, and that just felt so nice to see that we were creating this atmosphere that was going to accomplish our goal. So I think that is why I would choose secretary as my favorite, and then it would go president after that because president was just an insane experience, and the club continued to grow. And then events manager is third, not last, because it was also very cool. But I just don't think anything could top that first year as secretary. That was so
Yeah,
cool.
of course.
Yeah.
So alongside your studies though, and running the club, work, and managing social life, one of the new habits that you also picked up was running. And this has inspired me so much from your journey, because it's not like you just started running and then that was it. You just caught the running bug. You had your own experiences with knee injuries, which happened even before you started running.
Mm.
So I'd love the audience to hear, how did you start this? And
Yeah. Oh, that's.
why running as opposed to like swimming, which is a lot easier on your knees, or
Mm.
just to continue climbing because like that's what you enjoyed?
Yeah. Oh man, so that running's been a really recent thing for me. Been really this year. There was I have a condition in my knees called patella tracking disorder. And it's totally curable. It's nothing serious. It's basically like when the knee joint articulates, the muscles are a bit imbalanced, so it means that the patella the kneecap is not located properly. It's a bit off to one side. So then when the knee bends, it kind of rubs against the soft tissue in there. It doesn't follow the nice little groove that's laid out for it, and it causes a lot of pain. And so I had that for as long as I can remember. What caused it? Who knows? It could have been growth spurts. Could have been sitting down all the time. No way to know. Not really relevant at this point. But yeah, so I kind of just and my dad and my granddad, they had knee issues, but very different to what I had. They had some serious stuff. So I think I just psychologically convinced myself that that's not something I'd ever be able to do. And it really sucked because I loved running, but if I ran for 800 meters, I was in pain. And that really took a toll on my self-esteem as well. And I went to some physios but I was very scared to talk about it because in talking about it, it kind of felt real. And I didn't want to think about the possibility that I'd end up, you know, like, where my granddad in his sort of old age had knee replacements and my dad was having all these surgeries. And I was like, I didn't want to challenge that. I just accepted that that was going to be me. So it was a really big thing when actually we Cameron, myself, and a few other people, we decided to do the Tough Mudder obstacle race. And that involved a lot of running. 15 kilometers of running. And I was like, well, and I think it was really big signing up for that race. I was like, you know what, screw it. Like, I'm going to sort this out. And I'm going to really just face my fears here and just find out what it is. I guess it was a bit avoidant by me for not doing that. But anyway, so I get recommended this physio because I went for a run. And sure enough, after a kilometer, I'm in a lot of pain. I can't like bend down. It really hurts. And I feel like an old man and I hate it. And then I remember my uncle recommending me some physio because he got into running as well. And I looked them up and I scheduled an appointment and went over there. I explained to him what was going on. And he gave me a completely different approach to what some previous other physios had given me. They give me these random stretches that were really boring and arduous. And because I came to him and I said, look, I'm really bummed out because I've got this Tough Mudder race coming up. Can you just tell me what I need to do to get back to running and how long I have to wait? And he's like, don't stop running, keep going. Like you need to run because that's how you get these muscles accustomed to what you want to do and how you strengthen them up. And that blew my mind, but at the same time made so much sense. So before I knew it, I went from being terrified of my body, like terrified of what would happen if because I kept thinking if I use my knees, if I run, I'll just bring that knee replacement time further ahead in my life. And I went from that to being given a program that would take me from this into whatever I wanted. Like it was very small progressions. It was like, intervals, run for 30 seconds, walk for 30 seconds, and do that 5 times, and then you're done, and then slowly ramp it up from there. But it just it was completely life changing. Be like, oh, I have a program for running. I don't have to stop running to make my knees better. I don't have to stop running, and by running, my knees will get better. So that was insane.
Mm.
So I did the program, and then when it came to Tough Mudder, it was insane. Like we did the race. It wasn't like 15 k's of straight running. There were obstacles in the middle, but and my knees still did get tired and start to hurt, but it happened after like 7 or 8 kilometers, which was just absolutely mind blowing for me. And it was just, yeah, life changing. I know I've said it like 6 times, but it was insane. So, yeah, after the Tough Mudder, I think, life got busy in other ways. And so I kind of was on and off with the running. Um, and then in March of the next year, because Tough Mudder was in like September, so there was a lot of running in there, but then things got busy. Anyway, come March, it's my birthday. I'm turning 25. I'm like, oh my gosh, my knees hurt again. Well, and I booked in an appointment with my physio as well. I booked in an appointment to go see him, and I was like, I've been, I haven't been running. I've been in a bit of a slump, like been a bit inconsistent with my routine. I can't see him like this. Like I can't come back to him and then tell him I've done nothing. So I called him up and I said, "Hey, book me in for this date." And I gave him a very specific date, of early in April. Sorry, early in May. And so he's like, "Yeah, no worries. Why?" And actually, no, he didn't ask why. Um, he didn't ask why. He just did it. I was like, okay, cool. So then I decided right then and there, like, that's it. I'm gonna run every day in April. Like, because this was my birthday at the end of March, for context. So I was like, I'm going to set a bunch of rules for myself and I have to do a certain amount of things every day for the every day of April. And it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. I have to make it a priority, because that's the only way that any change will be made. So I came up with this challenge, called it the April Attrition Challenge, and it was a bunch of little things. It was like, 10 push-ups, 10 pull-ups, 10, like a 1 minute plank, very like small achievable things. But the big one was half an hour of running a day, 30 minutes. So whether that was intervals, whether that was a full continuous run, whether it was 1 minute of running and 29 minutes of walking, it did not matter. I had to get out every day with the intention to do some running for 30 minutes. And there were some other rules as well, like if to add some spice, like I wasn't allowed to do any takeout. I had to cook everything, or I could get snacks, but I was not allowed to buy a meal out. If I had to get anywhere that was within 3 kilometers of where I currently was, I was not allowed to use public transport or drive. I had to walk or run. And it was so much fun because it really forced me to look ahead and actually plan my month and plan my life. And that was something I hadn't really experienced before to that degree. And it was just an insane month. So yeah, sure enough, I started out the month doing the program, doing 1 minute of running, 1 minute of walking, etc. But then I noticed my knees were not getting worse. They were staying the same or even getting better, because there were a bunch of other rehabilitative exercises my physio gave me that I was doing on top of that. And by the end of the month, 30 minutes of running felt great. And I was able to do it continuously. And I went from feeling some discomfort or pain after a minute of running to being able to run continuously for half an hour every day. It was absolutely mind blowing. And there were some really funny days. Like there was one part of the month where I randomly got, I was on some, dating apps, and I randomly got this date, and I was super excited. I'm like, but I haven't done my run. Uh, so I went on the date, and I live pretty far from the city. So I got home at 12:40, and then I got out the door. I got home, got changed, got out at 12:50, did my run till like after 1 a.m. and then I went to bed. Because
I love that.
it didn't matter that it was after 12. It didn't matter that I did everything within the 24 hours. It just mattered that I did everything 30 times, 31 times. So
Mm.
that was just, it felt so good to overcome those little mini challenges and come out of that month really gaining an appreciation for something that I didn't really appreciate before, which was being able to see the value of doing small things over a long period of time. I very much like, if I'm anxious or I just want to get something done, I'll just do it all. I found it very hard to see the value in just chipping away at something every day. But that month changed it for me, because I came to the end of that month, only having run, half an hour a day. But in that month, I'd run like 3 marathons. And I gotta say, life changing again, because holy shit, dude who couldn't run 800 meters without feeling pain in my knees to having run 3 marathons in the space of a month. Like, holy shit, it was an insane feeling, and it really showed me what was possible and the value of chipping away at stuff and long-term goals and all that kind of stuff. And it also just set me up for a really cool future of running, I guess. So yeah, it was an insane month, and running has just been it's up and down. Like, happy to expand on it more, but I realize I've been talking for a while, so I'll just let you.
No, no. It's like I absolutely love that. The when you discover the power of daily habits, the small things that chip away, consistency over time, and eventually you get to a point and you're like, oh my gosh, I look what I can do, look what I've done.
Yeah,
And it's unbelievable. I wish more people have had that experience if they can commit to 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is on a challenge, on something you decide to do and you follow through with that. The
yeah,
wow, it is life changing because you realize I can actually apply this to other things in life.
yeah.
Um, so I was wondering, do you have any other like healthy habits that you've implemented that you've seen like really great results for?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, some of them just they've kind of fallen apart in the last few weeks because I was in my last few weeks of uni. But there are a few things. One of them is cold showers. So cold showers are just there are so many benefits to it. There are questionable evidence on like how valid they really are. I don't really care about that. They make me feel great. Uh, I don't know. Cameron actually said something that really kind of helped me explain why I liked them so much. And he said it in such a good way. I probably won't do it justice, but you said something like, when you have to get up early in the morning and then you need to jump in a freezing cold shower, that's the hardest thing you're probably doing all day. So if you can do that, you can do anything. I found that it woke me up. I found that I just it felt kind of exhilarating. Sometimes I would put music on. Sometimes I would just breathe. When you get started, once you put your head under that water, your body starts to like hyperventilate. It starts to want to just breathe really deeply, but you kind of control it. And it's a great way to test your discipline because it's incredibly hard to do. And I did it for a while last year and kind of fell out of it once it got really cold. But summer's the best time to start for anyone looking to get into it. You should start in summer because if
Yeah.
you can get into the routine in summer, it's far easier in winter. So I've started doing it again now. So for the last, I think the last month or 3 weeks, maybe every shower I've had, bar one or two for like dedicated washing purposes, has all been cold, because cold water does not wash you as well as hot water does. You should definitely add in a hot shower every now and again. But yeah, so that's been a big one. It's great for recovery as well. If you work out, it's also the easiest time to have one because you're really hot, so it's far easier to
Yeah.
jump in and do it. So if you it's kind of it's a version of cold immersion. Ice bars are the thing that's probably it's most well known for. But I can't fit an ice bath on my balcony and I can't afford that much water. So a cold shower does the trick for me. Um, Another thing would be just general mindfulness. I think it's very easy in the hustle and bustle of life to just become untethered or lose the ground, to not be grounded. A lot of that for me is like being on my phone or uh, just distracting, filling time with distractions. Being bored is something that's hard to do for at least for our generation, I think, and for the generations around us as well.
Yeah.
It's sort of a skill that I remember having when I was younger, but I've kind of lost now through the busyness of life. So I think just spending some time to just not do anything, just meditate. And when I say meditate, that's different for everybody. For me, it's just breathing. There's a bunch of different breathing regimes you can do, but doing stuff like that is really good. And also just mindfulness is also just about being present in the things that you do. So if you're cooking or if you're exercising or something like that, just
Mm.
just focus on doing that. It's really hard. It's really hard sometimes. You might be stressed and not want to think about things, or you might have just had a really busy day and you just want to wind down with something on TV. But it can be really nice to just have focus on what you're doing at the time, because then you find that time goes a lot slower and you actually remember a lot more of what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What motivates you?
Uh, it's a good question. I think a few things motivate me. Goals, definitely. Goals motivate me. But they're not so concrete as like I want to do this by this day. I always want to feel like I can bring something new to the table being my own life or someone else's life or the world. Like I thought that I could never run because of my knees, and I challenged that notion and then showed that I could do that. Or couldn't imagine actually finishing a degree that had been going on for so long. So I just kind of knuckled down and did it. One day I just decided I wanted to climb Mount Fuji. So then, despite that being a very much spur of the moment decision, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Japan. I'm going to climb Mount Fuji. It'll be fun. I was able to not only make that a reality, but also involve some of, some really close people in that as well. It was something that was originally sort of my dream. I just imagined doing it myself, but it ended up being a group experience, which is really nice. So I think that's what motivates me. I find it hard sometimes. I think my goals can be kind of sporadic at times. Like they'll be very much formed by what's going on in life at the time. And I think people are always most driven to cause change in their lives when when they notice that, I don't know how to explain it, but when they notice that you notice the stagnation after a while, I think. Like when things are just going on as they are, or on the other end, something really big happens, something maybe traumatic or something really good, but something big happens in your life, you then want to make big changes. So I think I just want to chase that, like always growing, always changing, and always being kind of putting myself in these sort of uncomfortable situations where I know I will grow a lot, if that
Mm,
makes sense. It's
yeah,
a
no,
really good question though. Yeah.
yeah, that's why I asked it. It's a deep question,
It
forces you
is
to
a deep
think, and
question. We can talk about it for
yeah,
hours.
it's no, awesome response. It's so powerful when you really see you grow as a person, and
Mm,
better yet, if you get to experience that with other people, it's even better.
yeah.
It grows together.
Yeah.
To wrap up this podcast, as much as I've really enjoyed, as always, having conversations with you, what's next for Tobias? Now that you finish your degree,
Oh.
you finish your boulder sock, what is next?
Ah, man. I mean, so it feels weird, right? Because now I don't have any assignments looming over me. I can do whatever. There's a I'm similar to when I was taking a year off uni. I have made the decision to not go straight into a full-time job, into a career, or kind of like traditional career, so to speak. I think if I were to do that now, I would be left wondering, what would happen if I tried something else? Because as much as full-time is great, you earn a lot of money, which is great. You lose a lot of time, and there's plenty of time for me to do that. I'm in a place now where I'm fortunate enough to be earning enough money to live and save a little bit. So I'm just trying to focus on other things. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about doing that prescribed path of like you go to school, you go to uni, you get a job. That's kind of the path. So I kind of want to just go a bit to the left of that and try some other things. Try ways to make money that I, never would have thought of doing before. That sounds really weird. I'm not going to make an OnlyFans or anything like that. That's not what I meant. But like, just try different things that might be, something that I never would have considered. I thought like, if you want to make money, you have to get a job. You have to once you finish uni, you have to start your career. You have to work full time. But there are so many other
Mm,
ways to do things, and it I'm not gonna lie to you, it makes me pretty uncomfortable regularly at the moment because I just think like I feel the all the years of people telling me what you should do or myself telling me what I should do, telling me to just apply for a job, and but I know that if I did that right now, I would probably be miserable. So the plan right now is to just focus on living, like focus on things like cooking really good food. I really enjoy cooking. I like learning how to cook delicious food because I used to just cook to live, but now I realize that you can actually make food taste really good if you try. Or relationships, like, I think during uni my relationships really suffered. It was really hard to make time for other people, and that was tough because got a lot of really lovely friends who were super understanding of that. So now I really want to put more time into that. Um, and like romantic relationships as well, that's something that also kind of suffered through the last year of uni. So I really want to just experience uh life outside the traditional path that I thought was set out for me, to answer it in a short way.
oh man, that's so cool. I can't wait to see. what you decide to do next year. And I'm sure like being present in the moment, you'll experience so much more, and opportunities will come.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
you're a big inspiration for that, Cam. Let's put that out there as well.
throw it right back at you.
Cam, oh
um,
man.
where can people find you?
Oh, I'm not very active on social media, but if you want to talk to me, my Instagram is Toby, Tobi, has dot 92. So if I get some messages and people want to chat, I'd love to chat. I do love chatting with people, making new friends. If you're in Australia and you want to go climbing, would love to go climbing. If you want to go for a run, I don't know, if you just want to chat. Yeah, but I'm not very active though, so you won't find a lot of posts on there.
Nice. I think that's okay. Like
Yeah. Oh, and
you,
follow UTS Boulder Sock. We post cool reels and stuff like that.
yeah, check that out. All the links will be in the description below. But man, you've had so much life experience across your 7 years of uni, and like this is just the beginning of something big. I'm sure of it for you. So I'm
Man.
so excited to see where it takes you next. And I would love to have you back at some point. I'm thinking maybe we could get like a exec roundtable going along and
Yeah.
talk more about the club, because there's just so much we can really dive off there, which I think would be really beneficial for everyone. They don't have to be going to uni club, but where it's about leadership, working with a team, and how you can grow as a community. I think that's so powerful. So, man,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time, and it's been lovely to just chat about these topics with you.
Yeah, no problem. And to the audience, thank you so much for listening to the Midweek Motivation Podcast. If you enjoy this episode, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as it supports the show and the channel. And if you're interested, you may also like the Midweek Motivation newsletter, where every week you will receive a useful, healthy tip or a motivational story straight into your inbox. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See ya.